The Revolution Podcast, Episode 10, Sex and Drugs. Golden Spiral Media presents The Revolution Podcast. Support for The Revolution Podcast is provided by listeners like you and through our affiliation with HostGator. While no hosting service can withstand a catastrophic, physics-bending, worldwide blackout, HostGator's top-of-the-line data centers feature redundant power, HVAC, and fire detection systems under 24/7 surveillance. Visit goldenspiralmedia.com/HostGator today. Welcome back to the Revolution Podcast, everybody. I'm Darrell.
And I'm Jeremy.
How are you?
Doing great.
Are you?
It's been a couple weeks.
It's
since
been
we were
2
here,
weeks.
so
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
I've missed you, Jeremy.
No.
I've missed podcasting with you. I see you every day. Almost every day.
Yeah.
Except for the days when you leave early.
For
You take off more half days than anybody I've ever known in my life.
They spread out. So that short bit of vacation I get seems longer.
How many days of vacation do you get?
10.
10?
10 days.
So you turn it into 20 half days, or
Pretty
do you do
much.
like 5 and
5 and 5?
5 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess 5 and 10 technically.
I see. I get 20 days. I should.
Yeah, rub that in there.
Well, yeah. I've been there a long
You've been there
time.
a while.
Now. I've been there 18 years.
Yeah. Well, yesterday was more or less it was a PPTO, so it was a dentist appointment.
Oh, dentist appointment. I've got one of those coming up.
All right.
Yeah.
I've got
get my choppers cleaned. Huh?
I've got another one coming up. So.
Hey, how's that for personal information, huh? We're trying to get the audience to know us on a personal level. Now they know that we work at jobs where we get vacation occasionally. We have good hygiene.
There you go.
Hey, what more do you want to know?
I don't know.
I bet they want to know some news about Revolution. What do you think?
There's a chance.
All right. And of course, in our abundance of non-witty banter, I forgot to mention the details of this episode. I mentioned that we're doing sex and drugs today, but you want to fill us in on the other details that we like to cover?
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start this week with a new person, I suppose, that we have not covered yet.
You're breaking the routine?
I'm going to go with the composer.
Okay.
From everything I can tell, it's been the same composer all season. So. It will remain the same. Mm-hmm. Christopher Linertz. And he's somebody that I'm familiar with a bit personally. He wasn't exclusively on this project I'll mention, but he did participate in Mass Effect 3 and its soundtrack, as well as Mass Effect 2 DLC, a couple of DLC episodes after it launched.
Are you big fans of those franchises?
Well, I'm a big fan of the franchise. It's done some things to me that some of you Lost fans might understand. And,
I'm throwing you under the bus here.
Yeah. I'm a little bitter, but at the same time, it's their prerogative to do that. It's just my prerogative to not spend money on them. So
you can like it. They can do what they want. You can choose not to like it.
But if they make it again, I'm a sucker, and I'll probably go with it. But
like Star Wars?
Yes, Star Wars. We'll get there in a bit, right?
We'll have a lot of Star Wars to talk about, I think, in this episode.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, but anywho, Linertz also worked on Supernatural and a few other episodes in the 2000s. I say episodes, other video games. Such as Medal of Honor in the 2003, 2004. So
that was actually back when I was still playing video games.
There you go.
Then kids came along, and I don't play nearly as much as I used to.
Kids can do that.
Yeah.
So
that's all right. The kids are great.
Yeah. Probably better than lonely games.
At times. At other times, when they're back talking and disobeying, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, this episode, Sex and Drugs, was also written by David Rambo.
And
He's
one of the regular writers, I think.
Yeah, aside from having the cool name, we are familiar with him from V and CSI. So,
yep.
And it was directed by Steve Boyum.
I think that's right.
So,
I mean, the person is right. The pronunciation, I believe, is correct as well.
Right. So, he's formerly a stunt performer. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's good. So, a good little tidbit you drug up there.
Yeah. But he's also directed Supernatural Numbers, Castle. So
very good. Well, let's get into some news here. We played the music already, but today was a big day in terms of some news was announced, and NBC announced their mid-season schedule, basically, is what it amounts to. So they announced when things like, what's the Catherine McPhee show called?
I have Danny McPhee in my head now.
Yeah. Anyway, it's gosh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I want to say Fame, but I know that's not it. But anyway,
Bright Lights.
Chat room, help me out with that. But anyway,
Smash.
Smash. That's it. Thank you, guys. They announced some of the other stuff that they're doing, like when the voice will come back, because they do a fall and a spring voice and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of step through some things here, what we learned from this today, and I know it's going to not be as easy to understand, maybe because you're listening and not looking at it. But just kind of bear with me as I kind of step through this, what this tells us and doesn't tell us about Revolution. What we learned from this is that Revolution is going to take a long hiatus, a 3 to 4 month hiatus.
Wow.
Yeah. It will be back on March 25th. That much I feel like we know. I feel that was pretty clear in what we learned today.
Okay.
March 25th, it will be coming back. So when it comes back on March 25th, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks until May. Now the final Monday in May is going to be Memorial Day here in the U.S. I don't think they would do an episode on that day. They wouldn't do new programming on a Memorial Day.
I couldn't see that they would.
If they did, that would be 10 weeks. I'm going to assume that they are not. So that's going to give us 9 weeks, so 9 episodes. Okay?
Okay.
We have already had 6 episodes.
Right.
So that's 15 episodes. We know that they're getting 22 episodes. So that leaves 7 episodes left.
Right.
Okay. Now here's where the confusion comes in. One of the websites was reporting, and this is a very reputable website, was reporting that Revolution would finish up their current batch of episodes in November. Well, that's only 4 episodes.
Right.
We have 7 episodes that need to be fit in somewhere between now, and we know what it comes. I feel like we know March 25th through May 20th is pretty solid 9 episodes. So I'm thinking they might be wrong, and we get episodes all the way through, say, December the 17th. That would be those 3 episodes for the first 3 weeks in December.
Right.
And if that's the case, that means we're getting new episodes every single week until December 17th. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Assuming that is correct.
Assuming that's correct. And I am, listen folks, I've got a little calendar spreadsheet here I'm looking at because I'm trying to make sense of how the schedule is going to go. The other possibility is that we could have like a 2-hour fall finale, a 2-hour season finale. Well, that takes care of 2 hours right there. Right. You know what I mean? So they could do some things like that as well.
That'd be kind of cool too.
I wouldn't mind that. And I hate the long break, the 3 or 4 month break.
Right.
But I can't complain that we're getting these big blocks of show when it's on, you know.
Right.
Fringe does this thing where it's on for 3 and then off for 5 and then on for 4 and then off for 7. And that is annoying.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan of the big break, but you have to have those weeks somewhere. You know, aside from the presidential debate last week, it's been straight through.
Yep.
It sounds like it's going to go straight through now, either through November or the first 3 weeks of December. We're not clear on that. And then when it comes back, it sounds like it's going to go straight through. So I like that. It's just, you can't have your cake and eat it too. There are so many weeks in the year, and they only produce 22 episodes.
So you're saying the cake is a lie?
In this case, it is.
All right.
So that's I know that might be kind of confusing. So what the part that I don't know is will it wrap up in November and come back on March the 25th, or will it wrap up on, say, December the 17th, which again is my own personal speculation, and then come back on March 25th. I feel really confident that it's going to come back on March 25th and go straight through to May 20th, but it'll all work out. Will it become more clear as it comes along? But either way, prepare yourself for a break, either for all of February, all of January, and all of December, and March. Really, that would be the 4 month. Or if we get some episodes in December, then we're going to miss all of January, February, and pretty much March. So
looks like we're going to be counting on basketball to carry us through this hiatus.
Hey, that's right. Basketball starts tonight.
It does.
NBA. So that's kind of what's going on with the schedule, and I wish we knew more. We just, that's all that we know to report to you at this time. I can tell you that next week is definitely a new episode, and it's called The Children's Crusade. That'll be episode 7. I don't yet know the name of episode 8, but episode 9, which will air on November the 19th, is called Styx, and that's like STYX, like the river Styx.
Okay.
Not like a stick you pick up underneath a tree and hit your little brother with.
Sounds like you had
I was the little brother growing up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Although there was one time I whacked my older brother pretty good with a stick, and he almost had to get stitches. I got in trouble for that. All right. Jeremy, what else is going on? I didn't check out the footnotes this week. Did you?
I hadn't checked them out a whole lot, but I do know they have some questions from Aaron Pittman.
Yes.
So I haven't
too.
Haven't read all of them or anything, but it looks like a good read, to tell you the truth. But if I could read and talk at the same time, I would. But.
Yeah, we mentioned the footnotes last podcast over at NBC.com. We also said you can go to goldenspiralmedia.com/footnotes, and that'll give you a redirect over to the site. And these are nice little amendments or addendums, not amendments, just some additional stuff that they're putting out to kind of go along with the show. Breadcrumbs, there you go. So go check those out. Yeah, I knew that this week's was about Aaron, and I meant to get to it because this was such a big, heavy Aaron episode, and I just didn't get the time to do that.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Also want to remind you guys that we record our live show every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which we've got a great crowd here tonight. Thank you to everyone who's joining us for the live show. Go over to goldenspiralmedia.com and click on the live show link. You can also just go straight there by going to goldenspiralmedia.com/live. Once again, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Mondays, while the show is airing in the continental U.S. time zones, we have some folks hanging out in that same web address. We've got the chat room over there, and folks are in there. They're chatting. We had every time zone represented last night. A good crowd for the Mountain time zone, a good crowd for the Pacific time zone, and of course, East and Central is always the biggest turnout.
Right.
Even with the terrible storm that's happening, even still right now with Hurricane Sandy, we had a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, we had actually a pretty large turnout in the Central and Eastern time zones last night.
So. Bigger than I thought because, I mean...
I was expecting
we have a lot of listeners in the Northeast U.S., and they were without power.
Right, so...
And even others, I think even in Michigan maybe, one of our listeners said that they had power, but they were not getting the new episode last night.
Really?
Yeah, and I was surprised to hear that. But anyway, come join us for the live chat while the show is airing or for our live show on Tuesday nights. And in spite of the folks, having Hurricane Sandy last night and not being able to watch the show, the ratings actually were still quite good.
Really?
NBC won the evening. The ratings did dip, but it was only by a few 100,000, not like as many as you would think wouldn't be able to watch it because of the hurricane and the power outage. Because even if they had power, a lot of people their news stations might have been preempting Revolution in order to broadcast, important information going on with the storm. So. Really, the ratings held pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good news. All right, I've got one other thing here to talk about before we get into the episode recap. For those of you, most of you who listen to this podcast, I won't say most of you, I know a lot of you who listen to this podcast are familiar with Golden Spiral Media and the other projects that we do. The Fringe podcast is the largest, most listened to podcast that we do, although this one's quickly gaining steam on the Fringe podcast.
All right.
The Fringe podcast has been nominated for 2 podcast awards this year, and voting for that opens up on November the 1st and continues for 15 days. And so we thought we'd just let all of you guys know who are new to Golden Spiral Media through the Revolution podcast. We'd love your vote too. And so even if you don't listen to the Fringe podcast, if you feel so inclined to vote for us in the best produced and in the entertainment category, that's the Fringe podcast. Again, voting opens up on November the 1st, continues for 15 days. We'd sure appreciate your vote, and just thank you either way for your support and listening to this podcast. All right, anything else, Jeremy?
I think that's all for the news segment for this evening.
All right, let's do the episode recap. The episode begins with Aaron, Charlie, and Miles stealing a wagon from the militia. Nora is now very sick with an infection from her stab wound. Miles takes them to the closest place he knows that can help her. It's the home of a drug lord named Drexel in Columbus, Ohio. They arrive and Drexel takes them in. Their doctor gives Nora some penicillin and a blood transfusion, and she starts improving. As a trade for his kindness, Drexel demands that Charlie use her feminine wiles to infiltrate the compound of his nemesis, Bill O'Halloran. The O'Hallorans torched Drexel's poppy field, and he wants revenge. He gives Charlie a disguised weapon and sends her off. In flashback, we see Aaron and his wife out on an anniversary date. The power goes out, and they are stranded. They survive off the streets for a few months, but Aaron feels that he does not have the skills needed to protect her. After a few close brushes with death, he leaves his wedding ring and a note on a rock and leaves her during the night. He believes that she will be safer with another group they've joined up with. Back in real time, Charlie leaves to see Bill. She learns that he is not a bad man, but believes killing him is her only option. Just before she kills him, Miles bursts in and stops her. At Drexel's place, he makes Aaron and Nora duel with pistols, but Aaron shoots himself instead. Drexel moves in to check on Aaron, and it turns out Aaron shot a metal flask in his pocket. He turns the gun on Drexel, kills him, and they all escape. In Philadelphia, Tom is promoted to major. Jason tells Monroe about Aaron's amulet, and Monroe dispatches their torturer, Sergeant Strasser, to get it. Later that night, Danny is taken outside to a park bench. He is shocked to see his mom sitting there waiting for him. They both break down in tears as they share an embrace they thought they would never experience again. We have some exciting news to share. Darrell has been selected to speak at New Media Expo, formerly Blog World. Taking place in Las Vegas on January 6th through the 8th, 2013, New Media Expo is the world's largest and only industry-wide conference, trade show, and media event for bloggers, podcasters, social media networkers, online communities, internet radio and TV broadcasters, and every type of new media user and content creator. This is where independent content creators, journalists, marketers, internet entrepreneurs, and the world's largest corporations learn about the newest online communication technology, tools, and methods from innovators and industry leaders. Past events have offered more than 100 educational sessions with amazing speakers, including Guy Kawasaki, Mark Cuban, Steve Rebell, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tim Ferriss, Chris Brogan, Paula Berg, and dozens of A-list bloggers and podcasters, award-winning journalists, Fortune 500 executives, and world-renowned online marketers. There is a wide selection of topics ranging from building an audience and community, basic and advanced blogging and podcasting, audio and video tools and techniques, web TV and internet radio broadcasting, monetizing content, social media marketing, how to effectively engage bloggers, and maximizing new media in your business marketing mix. I will be leading a session on tips for fan podcasters, joined by Lost podcasters Jay and Jack Glatfelter and Jason Kabasi from the Walking Dead cast. We will discuss how to choose the right show, how to build a community around your podcast, how to promote your podcast, how to build a relationship with a TV network, and how to properly conduct interviews. Check out all the amazing content offered at New Media Expo and book your ticket today by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/New Media Expo. I can't wait to see you in Las Vegas, January 6th through the 8th. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait.
Sounds like a lot of fun for you.
It'll be fun. You know, last time they had it in June, and it was in New York City. Right. I've never been in New York City. Always wanted to go. They invited me to speak there too, but I had another event going on.
Yeah,
and I was in New York. I went to New York City, spoke, and left. So I was literally in New York City, finally for the first time ever, for less than 24 hours, and then had to go to Chicago. But anyway, very, very excited about going to Vegas. I'll be able to stay there for the entire conference this time and get a whole lot more out of it. It's a great conference, and if you're any type of new media person, blogger, podcaster, or aspiring blogger, podcaster, you heard it in the little ad or whatever you want to call it. It really is a great event, and so hope to see you guys there. When you click on that link that I mentioned, goldenspiralmedia.com/New Media Expo, if you sign up using that link, we'll get a little commission here at Golden Spiral Media. So hope to see you there. If you're going to be there, let me know, because we will be planning a fan meetup. So if you're a listener to the podcast or whatever, we'll be doing a meetup at some point. I don't know the details on that yet, but stay tuned for that. All right, Jeremy, it's time to discuss the episode. Alrighty, I'm going to let you kick it off tonight, man.
All right, and I'm going to kick it off where your synopsis ended. Well, close to.
Yeah.
It's actually sort of the beginning of the episode when Danny finally gets to meet Monroe.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of an interesting scene for me. I got the feeling, at least, that he just kind of wanted to tear his head off. And
who wanted to tear whose head off?
Well, everybody in the room.
There were three men in that room there. So, technically there was a four, because a guy came to get Jason. But I'm talking about Jason and Monroe and Tom.
Right. Those are after everybody meets them.
Yeah. Is that what you mean? Is that who you're talking about here?
Well, with the sir at the end. I guess we can move to that. That when Jason kind of tells his dad.
Yeah.
Essentially, you can tell that there's some words that he's not saying in that statement. So
he showed him, he gave him the respect of authority in words, but not in body language or anything.
So lip service, if you will.
Yeah, there you go.
You definitely knew that there was no love lost between them, or a lot of love lost, rather. So.
There you go. And really, that will be our Twitter poll question coming up in our feedback podcast. That'll come out later in the week. It will be your thoughts on that specific scene and what might come out of that.
Right.
It was a cool scene. It was no surprise. I mean, we saw last week or 2 weeks ago technically, but the last episode, Soul Train, when Jason decided to throw Charlie from the train. I want to say Mama from the train. It's a great movie. Instead of what Tom told him to do, we knew that there was definitely some insubordination there.
Yeah. So, but I thought it was kind of interesting when Monroe tells Danny, "Hey, I'll deal with Neville here," and then he leaves the room. He's like, "I'm giving you a promotion." I thought that was kind of fun too.
Yeah.
It shows that Monroe really is heartless. He's happy to have a Matheson. He's willing to kill all of them, and including Rachel.
Yeah.
I believe so. I thought it was kind of neat that. He made Tom a major, and then he assigned
Major
Tom, yeah,
to ground control. David Bowie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It had to be said.
I know.
All right.
I'll let you say it, as long as you're not trying to sing it.
I won't sing it. That's Clint's job.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he sends Tom to give Niska, or as he's called in this show, Sergeant Strasser.
Niska, nice. Yeah, nice.
He sends him off to.
That's funny. I've got my own Firefly reference coming up a little bit later. I do.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I thought that was kind of interesting. They're sending Strasser, which I equivocate to Niska, obviously. I mean, ruthless.
Yeah.
Torturing kind of a guy. So
Niska gutted his own nephew, or wasn't
it,
something like that.
It was a son-in-law, or was it a nephew? I can't remember, but he was hanging in a closet.
Right.
So I think I have a lot of hopes for what Strasser is going to do. I think it could be very fun
in
a sadistic sort of way. Yeah. To see what his character does. So
yeah. Alternate Cat saying, "Man, I got to watch Firefly." Yeah, if you haven't watched Firefly, you've got to. It's only 14 episodes in a movie.
You can get it done in a day, maybe two.
Yeah,
you won't want to stop.
Definitely worth your time. Yeah. So I realized, several minutes ago that I was mixing up two scenes there. With you started out talking about Danny, and I switched it over to Jason, and I appreciate you hanging with me there. Well, I didn't mean to mix the scenes together there. That was interesting to me, though, speaking of the Danny scene with Monroe, that he basically told him the same thing he had told Rachel. Anything you want, I will give you everything you want. Now, Danny is obviously a much younger and much less inexperienced, or much more inexperienced person. I still think he's smart. He'll see that Monroe will probably be trying to use that to manipulate him, to try to get him to soften up towards him.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I don't think he's necessarily going to fall for that. I mean, he might ask for something, you know, I don't know what, but I don't think that he's going to, fall into Monroe's trap, I guess.
Okay. So he's free or safe from being turned? No?
He could be, what's the word? Blackmail's not the right word, but, you know, he could use Rachel. He showed him Rachel right away.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
I kind of did and I kind of didn't.
Yeah, so he could use that as leverage to both of them.
Yeah.
He's got them both now leveraged to manipulate them. Yep. So that, I think, is what is more likely to be able to the tool he'll be able to use to manipulate Danny to what he wants is that, not softening him up through giving him whatever he wants.
Right. He's just going to coerce him.
Sure.
So, yeah. Well, what'd you think about Drexel?
I liked Drexel.
I did for a bit.
He was a scumbag.
Yeah.
He deserved everything he got and probably a little bit more. He probably deserved to be beaten and tortured and paid back for a while. He got off a little, he died a little too quickly. But I loved him as a character. He had a great wit about him. Mm-hmm. He owned the screen when he was on it, and he reminded me of Badger from Firefly. If Badger was a little bit more,
had more of a backbone.
Yeah, I mean, but he had that. I don't know. He had that spunk like Badger did. Like he was a character that I was hoping we'd get to see every 3 or 4 episodes, like we did with Badger. When Badger was on episodes of Firefly, it was like this guy's a scumbag, and you don't want anything good to happen for him. But the episodes were really quite good when he was on there.
Yeah,
that's what I felt about with Drexel. So because of that, I was a little disappointed that he died at the end. I mean, he got shot pretty close to the heart, so I'm assuming he died. You're not going to survive a wound like that in a time, even though they have medicine. I don't think he survived.
He could have had a liquor.
I suppose he could have had a flask, yeah. But I am going to assume that Drexel is dead. Okay. But man, he was a slime ball to the core.
Yeah, it's just a game, right? So,
everything was a game to him. Yeah. Fun and games. How many times did he say that? 4 times? 3 times?
Yeah, I didn't actually count.
I didn't count either.
It was enough to make sure that you know what's going on. So,
yeah.
But
and we had we said earlier we're going to talk about Star Wars during this episode. I mean, everyone in the chat room was when they rode up in that wagon, and he comes out acting like he's all mad, puts a gun to Miles' head. We were all going, it's Lando. They're in Cloud City.
Yeah.
Where's Darth Vader? Which room is he going to be hiding in,
Part of me did expect somebody to be there waiting for him. But
yeah. That would have been too much of a Star Wars thing, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. But he was kind of his own Darth Vader. He was really corrupt.
He was his own evil warlord of his own little world there. Yeah. And so, maybe next season we'll see, more Star Wars, intertangled with Mickey Mouse.
There you go.
You never.
Yeah. You could have Galacticus, since they own Marvel and now they own Lucasfilm. By the way, if you don't know that news,
Disney bought
a Mickey Mouse Galacticus because they're just sucking in all of the universe. So. But yeah, if you missed it, everybody, Disney purchased Lucasfilm today for a rather large sum of dollars.
Oh, I've got $4 billion in my bank account.
Well, then why didn't you buy Lucasfilm?
I didn't know it was for sale.
You could have fixed every problem out there.
So that was So anyway, that'd be said, I guess. But it definitely felt like Lando coming up.
Yep.
Another thing I thought was really kind of cool, and I didn't expect at all, and that was that during the blood transfusion, Miles reached over and grabbed Nora's hand. We knew that they had some sort of relationship in the past.
Right.
He acts like a pretty tough guy, but we know that he's softer inside, and he's hinted or told Charlie that he can't be that guy right now. But he showed a little softer side there, showed that he does still care for Nora. I wasn't really surprised by that. Were you?
No. I mean, I fully expect them to at least get together and subsequently break up and get together and break up and get together. You know, I think we'll see that throughout the episodes. But it was interesting to see that they were moving and progressing those two characters towards each other. Yeah. And again, this early in the season, we're going to run out of time when we can say it's this early in the season, but we're still pretty early, and they kind of feel like, man, they're moving on their relationship, and we find out a few more things at the end of the episode that they're answering those questions. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and who knows what they'll do with that relationship between Nora and Miles? Yeah. Will they string it out over time? Will something happen? You know, it's something that they can use as a plot device, like they're doing with Rachel and Danny. Right. They obviously have a love for each other in a very different way than Miles and Nora do. Yes. But it is a bond. Mm-hmm. And Monroe will take that bond and manipulate it. So, like I said, it's a plot device that can be developed so that these two now can be used against each other. Right. Or sacrifice could be made. You know, all these things start coming to mind when things happen. Or it could just be to add drama and attention to a show with relationships and stuff like that. So it's interesting, something we'll keep an eye on. But no surprise, because we knew they had a history. Therefore, they're spending all this time together. So therefore, there's a likelihood that an old flame might be rekindled. Right. Right. So, and she doesn't even know, right? I'm assuming she was so out cold that she doesn't know that he made that gesture.
That's true.
So at this point, it's really nothing. Well, the audience knows.
Yeah, the audience knows, and I think it's something for him. Yeah. And like we've mentioned before, it's a bit of development for Miles, and in his heart maybe softening again or something. So if he's willing to protect her as much as he kind of made that effort too. I mean, he was very overtly telling everybody to take care of her, fix her. So
that's true. That's a good point.
I think his concern the whole episode was more Nora rather than everybody else, and it took Aaron towards the end of the episode to convince him, hey, your real family is Charlie. Yeah. So go fix her.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let's talk about Aaron a little bit.
Okay.
I didn't know going into the episode, who the flashback was going to be centered on. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it was Aaron. Mm-hmm. We got quite a bit of backstory on him, learned some things about him, and saw some character development throughout the show. One of the things, I guess the first thing I have here listed really isn't the best way to step into this conversation. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, were you surprised by what we learned in the flashback, and how did you kind of feel about what we learned there?
As a combination of all the flashbacks, I was shocked that it ended the way it ended. Yeah. To me, that was unexpected. I fully thought she was dead.
I thought she was going to die.
And for all we know, maybe she dies at some point, and he follows her for a while, and he sees her dead. So we don't know if she's dead or alive. But the way he just strung her out and left her out to dry.
They were with that group of people.
Right.
And he felt like, Sean was a part of that group. Sean had saved her twice. Yeah. Because she had been drinking poop water. Yeah. And apparently one swig of non-poop water is enough to cure you from poop water. Yeah. And then, of course, he saved her when they were attacked as well. Mm-hmm. So, I get what he did. Mm-hmm. And I think that what he did was purely motivated out of love for her. Uh-huh. He knew that she would never allow him to go. Yeah. But he knew that as long as he was there, he would be looked upon to be the protector of her. Mm-hmm. If the group is under attack again, Aaron, your wife is your responsibility more than any of the rest of us. Right. If he took himself out of the equation, then someone else has to take care of her who is going to be more likely to be able to help her than he would, and therefore, for her sake and for her safety, he took himself out of the equation. So I took it as a great sacrifice of love, but I also thought it was cowardly of him to do it that way. Yeah. What about you?
Cowardly is probably the best way to put it. I don't really have a lot of respect for the way he did that. I think if you have a wife who loves you and you're out of shape despite walking from Minneapolis to wherever they were.
Dharma drops, man.
Yeah.
Dharma drops.
I mean, they walked so far and he didn't lose a pound, first of all. But, I mean, if you have this woman who loves you for who you are.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that all of your money disappeared on your anniversary and everything you ever had is gone. And she's willing to stick with you. And I think you fight for her. You get into shape and you lay your life down for her, if that's what it comes down to.
I agree.
Part of me wonders if he's just unwilling to lose his life to save hers. He may be willing to protect her by leaving, but it almost to me felt like he wasn't willing to trade his life for hers.
Yeah, maybe so. And, like I said, I still think what he did was motivated out of love.
Yeah.
But was it... I'm like you, man. I would, if I was in that position, and I'm not very skilled at any type of fighting or combat or anything like that.
You have no skills like archery or...
I could develop those, and I have shot a bow and arrow before. I have gone hunting before and fired a gun, but no, I mean, I would be like Pauly Shore on what is that movie where he comes back and lives on the farm with that girl. Anyway, he gets punched in the face and he falls down. He's like, yeah. That's how I would probably be.
Right.
But if I was in that situation, I would learn those skills. But I still think it was the cowardly thing to do. I would do whatever I could and sacrifice myself to protect my wife and my kids.
So,
yeah,
it did feel a little weak, and I actually thought Sean was going to do something to actively take her from him.
Okay.
So I was surprised Sean turned out to be good the entire episode. Will we see him again?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
And if we do, will he have Aaron's wife around his arm?
Right.
What do you think?
Well,
Son-in-law. Sorry, it just occurred to me. Son-in-law. That's the name of that Pauly Shore movie.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we will see Sean again.
Okay.
I liked him after we found out he was good. He seemed to be an intriguing character.
He did.
We'll probably see him in a few flashbacks. I don't think we'll necessarily see him in the present, essentially, but in the flashbacks, I think we will see.
Oh, so you think they've already had their reunion?
I do.
Okay. I like that. I like that better than them having crossed paths in, because he's going in this other completely different direction of the country than...
Right.
I mean, we don't know where he left or where they were at when that happened, but I'm going to assume it was somewhere in that Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio area. And so that's a big area, obviously, but now they're heading more towards the East Coast with Philadelphia and New England area. So the odds of them crossing paths now, I think, are less likely. So I like your idea there.
And this was 15 years ago. I mean, it's 8 months after the blackout that he chose this path. So I personally think he might have followed them for a while just to see what happens.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what goes on from there.
Yeah, that's true. I think the audience would like to see. I think the audience would like to see them meet again. Now, whether that happens through flashback or in the present time, I had only assumed the present time, but now that you throw that out there, that gives an interesting layer of backstory. If they're going to continue with the flashback, then they're going to have to develop a secondary level of flashback, and there's only so much that you can do. I mean, Lost did that very well for about three layers. Some characters got 4 or 5 layers that were pretty good. Others were only good for 1 layer of flashback.
Right.
So they're going to need to think about how these flashbacks are going to look if they're going to continue this out. But I like that idea. I think that's good.
Either way, though, I think we will see her at some point.
Did we catch a name? I don't ever remember hearing her name.
I don't know. I don't know if our chat room can help us with that. So
yeah. All right. Just Aaron's wife, I guess, is what we'll call her.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron did get brave at the end of the episode, and obviously pulled the gun or turned the gun on himself. Had the flask in his pocket, which I don't know about you. I'm a big Mythbusters fan. When that happened, I'm like, I know that's not true, but for the sake of TV, it didn't bother me in the least. But yeah, he finally got brave and was willing to, a few things. He was willing to get aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
He was willing to sacrifice himself. I mean, what if he had missed? What if it had gone through the flask? He didn't know. I think he was willing to die in that situation, hoping that he wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, is he a changed man now? Is he going to have more courage? Or was the courage in the liquid form that he had swallowed earlier before he shot himself in the flask?
Well, is the courage the cowardly lion? He reminds me of the cowardly lion a lot. He had it all along, but at the same time, he just didn't know how to use it. I do think that he's going to develop some. Whether or not he actually develops into this Miles character, I don't necessarily see that ever happening. But I think he could be somebody who does something when it's needed. It was neat to see him react the way he did.
Yeah.
I saw it coming. I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners and a lot of the TV viewers saw it coming. I know for a bit there, though, it kind of made me wonder, the commercial break, is he dead? Is he alive?
Yeah, it was the same way. When it first happened, I was like, what? No.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a minute. He said he had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
We never really saw his plan executed. We saw Miles say, you kill the door guy, and I've got a plan. Mm-hmm. And so then I thought, well, I guess this is his plan. He probably found a silver platter, or, you've seen that in movies where they stick a plate, Michael Keaton and Batman did that. It's been done a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I thought. And then I totally forgot about the flask. They had showed us the prop earlier in the episode, and I had forgotten what it was. So by the time the second episode or second commercial rolled around, I'm like, I think he's going to be all right. He's got something stuck up his shirt.
Yeah.
But my first thought, which I would say if he had died, kudos to NBC for not doing all these promotions saying who's going to die in this episode. I would like to be surprised. Fringe did that this last week.
Okay, well, don't tell me
somebody died.
See, now you're giving me that spoiler.
We never saw it coming. I didn't tell you who died.
Okay.
I didn't tell you Walter died.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. It wasn't Walter. But that was cool.
See, now I know it's not Walter.
Never saw it coming.
All right. So,
that was good.
It was good. I fully expected him to shoot Drexel. When I thought it was smart of Drexel to get behind the armored door. I was proud of him for that, to be honest.
Proud of Drexel?
Proud of Drexel, yeah, because most people, just stand out in the open and the good guy shoots them and gets away. So I was glad to see that he went up and he had some brains. Whether or not he ended up dying in the end or not because of his pride is one thing. But it was kind of fun to see him plot against them in such a way.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, the chat room is telling us that Aaron's wife's name is Priscilla. I don't think it was spoken on the episode, but if you look at some of the documentation that's out there, casting calls and stuff like that, even the interactive map has it listed as Priscilla.
Okay.
Thank you guys for that. So but then he came out of his protective area and gave himself up.
Right.
Now, were you surprised that none of Drexel's guys shot Aaron? They all had their guns drawn on him.
I thought that was the best part of the episode, actually, because you see this man he believes himself a leader. He thinks he's unstoppable.
Yes.
And his people are like, okay, he's dead.
Yeah.
So there wasn't there's not a single tear dropped for this guy. So it shows you exactly who he was. And I liked that. I liked the fact that they didn't, load their guns and you hear the clicking noises on their muskets.
Yeah. Yoga Bon in the chat says, nobody ever loves the drug lord. That's right. It was like, this guy's dead. He was a jerk anyway.
Yeah.
Monroe might find the same thing happens if he ever gets killed. Right. I think people are following his leadership because that puts potatoes on their plate,
yeah,
and puts a roof over their head.
I think the only one who will cry at Monroe's funeral is Miles.
That might be true. That's a great point. Miles, I think, would cry at his funeral, and Rachel might too. Those that knew him before, when they,
maybe.
If you see, let's go with the Star Wars thing.
I don't think,
if Darth Vader had died an evil man without, the turn that he had. Spoiler alert.
You've ruined episode 7.
If you knew the episode 7, it's coming out in 3 years. Yeah. if he died in that state, it would be sad to know what he was and what he was capable of and how he ended up dying.
Right.
I could see that there's being some mourning in that regard at his funeral, but no, not really elsewise.
I don't see Rachel really breaking any sweat because I see Danny having the fire kicked out of him over the course of at least a few episodes. At the rate we're going, he could escape tomorrow. Yeah. But I think he'll be there for a bit, but I've been wrong several times already, so we'll see.
They are, and they're revealing stuff. Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't expect at all to see that reunion between Danny and Rachel this episode.
Yeah.
I thought it would. We say that every week, though. Yeah. That's the point, right?
Yeah. So. But we can talk about, you have one highlighted. Is that the one we wanted to mention next?
I did want to use that as a segue into something here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I killed the segue.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it because I actually thought I had only talked about the first part of that. I hadn't talked about the other parts of that. So he talked about how, I think Charlie mentioned to him that he couldn't save Maggie.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
At the very beginning. That was pretty hard. That was pretty, he got insulted a few times. Miles insulted him, and he kind of stood up to Miles and said, don't appreciate that. That's not his exact words, obviously, but and then we saw in his flashbacks, him thinking about what happened with his wife. Is regret finally getting the better of him? And that's why I said, is he a changed man now? Did he finally reach a breaking point based on the recent event of Maggie? Here he is in this situation again. You think about they've only been on the road for a few weeks, probably a couple months, maybe. I don't know how long it's taken. I haven't looked at the map to see lately, but is this finally changing him too? I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think a bit of their ridicule and their belief of him might have started to wear him down, and with the loss of Maggie, he's starting to feel helpless. So maybe he is finally getting to the point where he's like, well, I need to be a man. So.
And he did talk about how Charlie was basically his family. And that was kind of cool. I didn't, we don't know how long he was there in the cul-de-sac of happiness, but he said that basically Charlie was his family, and now she's in harm's way. And, he had lost his other family because of his cowardice. I'm sure he regrets that. Yeah. So I don't know if it'll be a permanent thing or not, but it might be.
All right. Well, speaking of the fat guy.
Yeah.
What about Jason giving up that pendant?
Well, again, that's no surprise. We predicted that on our last podcast, but I didn't expect it to happen so right away. Yeah. I thought it might happen. I thought that would happen before the Danny-Rachel reunion would.
I agree.
But not at all surprised. Hey, you see anything like this? We think the chick might have it. No, the fat guy's got it. I saw it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Not that it was hard to predict, I don't think. Yeah. So let's talk about Charlie a little bit here.
Okay.
She did this thing where she was going to go kill Bill. How'd you feel about that?
Was his name Bill?
His name was Bill. Oh, and in the episode recap, I pronounced it two different ways. It was like Ohala and Ohala. I don't know how it was pronounced, but yeah, Bill was his first name.
I didn't catch that it was Kill Bill.
So she went off to kill Bill. What were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was kind of neat that Drexel asked her to do it. I think we may have seen something similar to that already, where they're saying, I don't want Miles to do this. I want this girl to do it.
Right.
We've seen that, but I liked that to me, it kind of went to fruition this time. What I didn't like was maybe her willingness to participate, even if it was unwilling. She was still a participant. She walked into the room and immediately pulled the weapon out of her hair.
That was pretty dumb.
Like, wow, you didn't even wait to build rapport. You could have taken some time there. So, but
it would be a completely different situation killing somebody in the heat of battle and killing somebody in cold blood like that.
Right.
So her trepidation, her jitteriness, the way she bumbled around.
Yeah.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
But she was still willing to go through with it. I mean, she had that knife raised above him.
That shocked me. Her willingness at that point really kind of made me wonder how much in the family is she really? You know, she saw this guy's grandkid and wife, and I'm assuming that it was Becca. It was her kid. I would guess.
Yeah.
So they're raising this kid. So she's willing to take this father out of this grandkid's life. I mean, because he probably doesn't actually have a real father.
Right. I see what you're saying.
So it kind of surprised me that she so willingly did, even knowing he was a cop, knowing all of what he stood for.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't done anything other than try to make a better world. I mean, burning that poppy field down was... His daughter was killed because of the heroin that was being produced out of that poppy field. I mean, it surprised me. It really... I thought she went to a really dark place. I thought this episode was really dark.
Yeah.
There was nothing good that happened in this episode.
That's a good point.
Except for the reunion between Danny and Rachel.
Yeah.
That was a smile moment. There were no other smile moments. Unless, I mean, you're looking at the humor and stuff that Drexel put out there and stuff like that. But, no, I mean, you had Drexel, who was a very, very dark character, manipulated Nora and Aaron to do some bad things.
Yeah.
You've got these women who he's turning into prostitutes. The people he's slinging out on drugs. You've got Nora facing death. Charlie turning into a cold-blooded killer. You've got manipulation and a torturer heading out by the hands of Monroe. You know, I mean, it was just dark episode. Bad world that they live in.
Yeah.
More so than I think any episode we've seen.
That's a good point. I hadn't really considered that. I think that, I mean, it'll be balanced. Obviously, we've had some darkness so far, so we'll probably see a bit more light-heartedness here.
Sure,
soon,
and there will be.
Hoping.
Yeah, and I didn't think anything was inappropriate or unrealistic or anything like that. It was just, and I think, you know, we didn't really talk in the beginning of our discussion here about how much we liked the episode. This one was okay for me. It wasn't bad. It wasn't as good as the previous 2 weeks were been. But I think that's part of the reason why. It was just real heavy, you know, real some non-happy things going on in the grand scheme of things. But I thought it was very real in what the world is like that they have found themselves in.
Yeah, I liked it actually, maybe a little bit more than you. I would almost put it on the same. I would say it plateaued since last time, but and not necessarily moving up, but. To me, it wasn't any worse than the last episode. So I did enjoy the character drivenness of it and seeing some of the developments with them. With Charlie, I mean, we're talking about her. I mean, her willingness to murder this guy. I was disappointed that, kind of like with Aaron, there's always another option, and they're taking the option that isn't really the right option, as we would really call it. So.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point because Charlie said this week, and Hutch said last week. I went back and watched the scene when Nora got stabbed last week.
Right.
I don't know why I watched that scene again, but I did, and that was what he said to Nora. I have to do this.
Right.
And stabs her. Charlie's like, I'm sorry, forgive me, but I have to do this.
Right.
To me, that's in a state of total hopelessness and despair where you see no other options. But there's always another option. Right. In the midst of hopelessness and despair, you know, there's always another option.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't continue in that. And I'm not dissatisfied at all. Like I said, let me reiterate. Let me be clear. That I think it's realistic for the world that they're living in. And I think, too, that it's going to show a nice character journey for all of these guys. All of these guys. You know, Charlie's trying to turn into this hard-nosed person, but she's got to learn where the line is and how to still control herself. You know what I mean? Right. She rips up the postcards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Saying she's a changed person now. That doesn't mean you go so far up to the other edge where you're just a cold-blooded killer either.
Yeah. I was a little upset that she tore them up. I kind of expected it, though. I mean, she had to hit. I mean, we see her witness this death. We see her go through these things, and I kind of mentioned that I thought that she would hit this bottom essentially, where she would see nothing but darkness, and maybe this really was to her, the way she saw it, there was absolutely no other way. It's the darkest of dark. But to me, and maybe being a viewer and knowing what options she has, it's a lot easier for me to make that statement, obviously.
Sure, absolutely.
But maybe this character, she just felt there was no other way out, and that's the way it felt. So
yeah, Tangier in the chat room says this is new territory for Charlie and Aaron. They've been sheltered for many years, and that's true. It's absolutely true.
Speaking of sheltered, I'm sorry. I was just going to mention, she walked pretty good in those heels for never probably having worn them.
I thought the same thing. I thought she's probably never worn heels before, and she's not stumbling all over the road there.
But I did kind of like what she seemed to walk slowly.
She did.
So I didn't know if that was planned
part of it. Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is where the show is really finding its footing. Okay.
No pun, right?
No, not related to the heels.
Okay.
Ow! Just knocked my knee against the desk. Fringe does this really cool thing where it always is kind of taking a look at what would you do for love and putting you in situations, or bringing in an episode with a someone, oftentimes a dad, because that plays into the Peter Walter dynamic, and then examining these different situations where really, if you step back just a step and look at it, they're asking the question, what would you do for love? And that's what this situation was.
Okay.
And I think Revolution is finding some really solid ground here, where they're saying, what would you do in this situation?
Would you do anything for love?
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
And if you look at everything we saw in this episode, I just made 3 notes here.
Okay.
One would be Aaron leaving his wife. Mm-hmm. We talked about it already.
Right.
What would you do in that situation?
I would change.
One option would be to do what he did.
Right.
And you could look at it and say, he did what he did based out of love.
Right.
He sacrificed his relationship with her so that she would have a better chance of survival.
Right.
Was that the best option? I don't know. He thought that it was.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you do in that situation?
Right.
And it's fun to kind of put yourself in that character's position and then evaluate what you would do. Another one here, and we just talked about, was Charlie going to kill Bill. What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
Is there really no other option? No other option. All those people down there with guns and power and all that other stuff, you could be, you could say, you go down there and you tell them, my friends are being held captive, blah, blah, blah. They devise a plan, blah, 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 Besides, how's Drexel going to know that she killed Bill to begin with?
Yeah.
He expected her to get killed. He didn't need any proof. She didn't think it through. She didn't think, is this the only option? So what would you do in that situation? And then the third one I wrote down here is with Jason. He's going to, and we haven't seen what he's going to do yet, but I think that he is faced with a situation where he's going to have to choose between family and code and his own personal morals. What's he going to do? Mm-hmm. What would you do in that situation? Given the context of the world you now live in, the parental dynamic, how would mom feel? How would dad feel? What's it going to do to my safety if I go AWOL?
Right.
Do I let my own personal morals dictate, or do I, squelch those and just kind of toe the line and salute and do what I'm supposed to do because of my code? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really starting to enjoy about this show is it's kind of throwing out these different scenarios, and hopefully the viewer will sit back and go, what would I do? What would I do in that situation?
I wouldn't run from the dogs.
No.
Sorry.
No. I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, is that just me? It's something I'm getting out of it, or are you seeing the same thing there? Or,
well, I do see that it is a choice, and maybe it is throwing that out to the viewers. It's not. I didn't really consider that it was viewer participation here, but that is a good point. I mean, maybe it's designed so it gets the viewer emotionally involved. when we're sitting and telling the TV, you didn't just do that, and we're kind of upset, and it kind of gets us. I guess we have something invested in it, in a sense. Mm-hmm. So I definitely see where you're coming from there. I like that. So.
Yeah, I did too. And I think that's when the show really starts to. You said, invest into that. I think so. I mean, now I'm getting more and more invested into the show, starting to care more about the characters, starting to care more about the decisions that they're making, how they're affecting the other people. Mm-hmm. And so that's to me another sign that the show is just getting better every week.
Right.
Okay. Anything else for you? I think I've covered all mine in one shape or another throughout the episode.
Yeah, I would agree with having covered everything. I mean, we covered hopelessness for everybody, so
yeah,
that was kind of the overarching tone I felt for this episode. So
I guess I have one more here that's just a minor note, and that is when Drexel actually hits Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how none of them saw that coming. He was telegraphing that a mile away.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't telegraphing it, but the question she asks begs the result that she receives.
As soon as she asked it, he's like, oh, it's like he's fixing the, Miles should have seen that coming.
Yeah. But, I mean, maybe Miles wanted her to get hit. Who knows?
Maybe so, but I doubt it.
All right.
So, yeah, good episode this week. Like I said, a little bit darker, but I still really enjoyed the episode. I think the show is still on a path where it's getting better every week, getting more invested into the show. Mm-hmm. We're learning more about the characters. They're answering questions fast. And I won't spoil the preview. I know you don't watch the previews.
Right.
Oh, man. You're going to need a seatbelt for next week if what they show looks... Although, they did a total misdirect this week. With what we saw in the preview before this episode, it looked like Drexel was going to have his way with Charlie, or want to have his way with Charlie.
I actually picked that up in the episode. Yeah. I mean, when you see him go, I want her. Yeah. I'm assuming that was in the trailer.
That was.
And then you have her in her nothings.
Yes.
I don't know a good word. Her birthday suit, essentially.
Yeah.
So I picked up on the fact that they were probably going for that. It kind of reminded me of a Firefly again with a Heart of Gold.
Heart of Gold, yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good episode.
Yeah, except for I like that a whole lot more than this episode. Good old Jane.
Yep.
So, all right.
Well, cool. Let's move into the quote of the week. All right, so our winner for the last episode, which of course was Soul Train, and this one wasn't even close. It was the biggest blowout we've had yet. 71% of you voted for this quote, and that is, what's that say about you?
Yeah, I'll tell you something else.
Shut up already.
What did you say to me?
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of your weird speeches, your mind games. Whatever you're trying to do, it's not working.
I would be very, very careful if I were you.
What? Are you gonna hit me again? Does that make you feel tough, beating up an 18-year-old kid? What's that say about you?
Good quote. Good dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, good scene.
I'm glad everybody got it right this week.
Well, let's see if they get it right this week. The first quote is, can you believe that?
You know how much these poppies were worth? Up in smoke.
What? Somebody torched him?
Yeah. Drunk Irish family up the road. The O'Hallorans.
Why? What'd you do to piss him off?
Nothing. Honestly. They just have a problem with heroin. Can you believe that?
Those potato-eating leprechauns. Can you believe that?
It's good.
He had a lot of good lines, I thought. All right,
I hope we see him in flashbacks at the very least.
Well, we could, because he's got a relationship, with Miles. Yeah, good point. All right, the next one is this, Aaron?
What the hell happened? How did you get away? You okay? What happened?
Aaron shot the son of a bitch.
Aaron? Shot Drexel. This Aaron?
I think I broke a rib, but yeah.
I think I broke a rib. He might have. He very well could have.
Probably should have broken more than that.
Yeah. All right. The next one is just one more thing.
Just one more thing, Lieutenant. Did you ever see something like this? It's a necklace or a pendant. We think the girl might have one.
Not the girl. That guy has it.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Dismissed. Get Strauss or give him last known whereabouts.
Sir?
Lieutenant, you've been dismissed.
It's just that Strausser isn't really known to leave survivors, sir.
Well, Strauss is going to bring us the necklace. And Miles. We don't need anyone else.
Dismissed. Sir!
You know, something we didn't really talk about was the way that Tom reacted when he got the promotion.
Yeah.
What'd you think? He didn't seem excited about it.
Julie will be excited to have me home. I mean,
yeah. It just seemed odd.
He didn't seem excited, but I don't think military people really get excited when they're promoted.
But possibly.
I don't know. I mean, to tell you the truth, I've never seen anybody actually get promoted to a major, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. And the final quote is, not a bunch of pretty postcards.
If I don't do this, you all die.
So, you're just gonna kill some random dude?
So what? I've done it before.
How are you talking like this? Who the hell are you?
Aaron!
This isn't some malicious soldier. The only thing these people are doing is torching Drexel's heroin. We should be sending them a fruit basket, not killing them. Charlie! They are innocent. This is murder.
I don't have a choice. How many times do you want me to say that? You're the one always telling me to toughen up. You're right. The world's not a bunch of pretty postcards.
There you go. More of the character change and development in Charlie evident in that quote for sure. So those are the quotes, and those will be up on the website on Wednesday. So you can go over to goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution, and you'll see the polls tab, and just click on that and get your vote on. Okay?
Yep.
I thought you were going to do the next segment there, but you're not. We want to give you the contact information so you can get a hold of us here at Golden Spiral Media and the Revolution Podcast. We're just about to record the feedback podcast. You know, we started in our last week putting these out as 2 different episodes, and we record them both on Tuesday nights. So the deadline to send in feedback is Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. But if you want to do that, you can send that in via email at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. You can also call us on our voicemail line that's always open 24/7. Go straight to voicemail, and that number is 304-837-2278. Or we got a new thing, Jeremy. You've probably noticed if you have the website pulled up, hugging the right-hand side of the screen on our website, goldenspiralmedia.com, there's a thing that says send voicemail, and you can click on that. It'll pull up a little box, and you can use your microphone from your computer. It'll record it for you. You can listen to it, and if you like it, you can just send it away, and we'll get it via email.
That's very handy.
It is very handy. It's really handy for our international folks, especially that don't want to pay a long-distance international call, which I couldn't blame them for that. And maybe don't have the ability to email us in an MP3 file, which you can do that too at our email address. So we've had several calls come in already, and people are liking it.
All right.
You can also follow us on Twitter as GSM Podcasts. You can go over to Facebook and join us there at facebook.com Golden Spiral Media. We've picked up several new folks over there over the last couple of weeks. We're really glad to have you over there with us. Check out our website over at goldenspiralmedia.com. We also want to say thanks to everybody who has been submitting iTunes reviews for us, ratings and reviews. We certainly appreciate it and are grateful for that as well. One last reminder to go and vote for us if you feel so inclined for the Podcast Awards. That's for the Fringe podcast. That opens up on November the 1st and continues on through November the 15th. Okay, anything else, man?
I'm ready to sign off.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Revolution Podcast. And until next time, take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
And I'm just going to say, don't forget to vote for the president. Not our existing president necessarily, but I'm just saying, go vote. We're plugging our Podcast Award votes, so make sure you go vote this week.
All right. The Revolution Podcast and Golden Spiral Media are not associated with Bad Robot Productions, Kripke Enterprises, Warner Brothers, or NBC. Golden Spiral Media's use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided within United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. For advertising opportunities, live show, and other Golden Spiral Media podcast productions, visit goldenspiralmedia.com. Copyright 2012, Golden Spiral Media.